If you're a podcast host, if you have a live stream show, if you've got a YouTube channel that has guests on it, where do you find those guests to join you and educate your audience? I am somebody who has a lot of different channels, a lot of platforms, a lot of talk shows, and I work with a lot of guest speakers to come and speak to my audiences. And so I typically find people through connections that I know. So I'll put out information on my Facebook page or on my social media saying, I'm looking for these types of people. Who do you know that you can connect me with? And that's a very easy way for you to use your existing audience to find people to then speak on your shows. But even more than that, and even more effectively than that, I like to go to social media. I go and I look for people who are actively engaged in speaking to their audiences. I want to be able to see that person, to hear that person, to know what it is they're saying, to understand that they truly have the knowledge that they are going to be speaking to their audience and potentially to my audience. And I want to make sure that they have good communication skills. Oftentimes you'll get connected with people through people that you know, or just, people that you've found or met, and they won't really be the best guests because they can't speak on a live stream or on a podcast, or they struggle a little bit to answer questions. So if you take somebody without a ton of experience, or that you have not seen that experience, it's a bit of a wild card what you might get. So I love connecting with people who are friends of friends, or people I've met at different conventions or events. But more than that, I love finding people on social media because they have an engaged platform. I look for people who know what they're talking about, who can speak without it feeling painful to listen to. I am looking for people who are actively actually having the conversations in their audience and answering those questions, who are pulling up the question boxes and answering those things, who are creating content based on how their audience is responding. So I'm looking for people who can easily adapt and easily have those conversations. I'm looking for people who know their stuff and who are already putting it out there, because I can see their cadence. I can see how they speak. I can see how they engage. I can see the rate at which they speak. I can see if they have to constantly start and stop their videos to get their point in. I can see if they're just speaking straight to camera. I can tell if they're doing, especially with live streams, this is going to be really helpful for me to be able to determine if they're going to be able to have a conversation with me and have a conversation with my audience. So I really love going to TikTok, especially. I typically look on YouTube, and I typically look on TikTok. Instagram I'll look on as well, but for finding guests who are really actively speaking and engaging with their community, YouTube and TikTok tend to be the better of them. And TikTok really is the first place I go to look, because those people are with the quick responses. They are actively engaged with their question boxes. They're actively engaged with those replies. They're engaging with their audience on a level in which it is easy for them to then come onto my shows and have those conversations. So I'm here specifically to be looking for people who are having good dialogue with others. I am looking for people who are going to work well. And because I can see so easily on TikTok in those short form pieces of content, the quick turnaround time, how good they are at navigating those questions, how quickly they're answering them, that gives me a really good feel for whether or not they're going to be able to function on my show. Whereas YouTube tends to be a little more of that long form content, which is fantastic for seeing if they can do long answers. But it does take time for people to respond to other people. It takes time to create content for those things. And typically, we don't see it's directly linked to a question. We just hear, oh, I've gotten this question recently, or this has popped up, but we don't really see that connection. We can't really go back through the threads to see, okay, well, if that person had a question on this, where did that stem from? Where did that come from in the content that they posted? Did they leave something out? Was something not clear? Or is it just a spin-off question from what they had said? So you can kind of go back through the thread and see the progression of getting to the point of the content that you are watching. So I really like TikTok for that. I really like YouTube for longer form content, and to see that somebody really is a good leader in that thought space. They want to make sure that they are leaders in their industry, or leaders in whatever space they happen to be working in. You can get a real good feel from that on YouTube as well. And of course, you can look on Instagram. Instagram's also going to be a good place to find it, but it's just a little less efficient than the other two. So if you are looking for really good guests, check with your audience first, check with your people, see if anybody has a good connection, because having that connection is going to make it easier for you to get that person on your show. If I'm a friend of this person and I'm reaching out to you, you're much more likely to engage with me than if I cold email you and say, hey, listen, I saw you on TikTok. Would you like to be on my show? But you can try both or either of these ways. Now, there are other ways to find guests for your show. If you want ideas on that, go ahead and let me know down below. And if you want to talk more about how to get people going from being on their TikTok and you just kind of hanging out with them to being a guest on your show, go ahead and let me know. We've got actually lots of content on this, but we're going to be doing more on getting guests on your show in the future. So now's the time to go ahead and drop that for us so that we can get your questions answered and make sure we get the right guests on to help teach you how to get more guests on your shows, how to navigate the world of working with those guests, and make sure that they're really efficient and effective interviews for your audience. We'll see in the upcoming episodes as we continue to help you navigate the world of being an entrepreneur to make this your most profitable year ever with the least amount of stress and time overwhelm as you're creating your content. We'll see in the upcoming episodes.